Resident Evil 3 Remake, or remake of Resident Evil 3, whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. This is a remake of Resident Evil 3, hot on the heels of last year's remake of Resident Evil 2. Kind of figured that it would be coming out, but I don't think we expected it to be so soon. We thought, at least for me, I figured they'll probably take a year off at least, or a year and a half before they put out Resident Evil 3. But no, pretty much a year after Resident Evil 2 came out, they put out 3. Now, 2 was extremely popular last year, pretty highly praised by us and the gaming community at large for being a really fantastic remake of what a lot of people consider to be a really fantastic game in the first place. So me personally, I was really excited for Resident Evil 3. Just like 2, I had never played the original, so this would be my first introduction to it. And me personally, I am extremely disappointed with this game. I think especially compared to last year's game, this is so much like below the mark compared to it. It feels like a way less effort was put into this to make it more modern. I really loved Resident Evil 2 last year, and yeah, so far I honestly haven't really played too much. I kind of got just super frustrated with near the beginning with the Nemesis fights through the streets and stuff like that I really have not had the desire to go back and play too much more of it. There were some spots that I was on board for, but overall, I'm just seeing like I can literally point to things that I'm like, this seems a little bit more half-baked than the Resident Evil 2 remake that came out last year. Maybe I'll chime in here and there as Lee and Derrick start talking about some of the later experiences, but that's probably going to be my bit on the game for the most part. Lee, why don't you take out your notebook and show us your rumor map and tell us exactly what happened here with this game.
All right, flips open book.
Cue picture of Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
with the really baggy eyes, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, kind of, it's a good. How good the last one was, which was only a year ago, kind of took one of Capcom's top teams, came in and really knocked it out of the park. We all like different games, but we all met in the middle on this one. And a genre that we all don't particularly like, and this is particularly my thing. It's my favourite series of all time. So this coming out a year later didn't worry me so much because I already knew going in there was going to be bits they could reuse anyway, so it wasn't going to be as much of an uphill task.
Yeah.
As it seems. It's come out and it's clear that whereas the last one had a top team that knew exactly what makes a survival horror game work. Same thing that in a weird world, Outer 3D made the original work and the remake of the original work, that kind of Pandora's boxy sort of kind of almost Metroidvania element to getting around. The puzzle-based thing. This seems to have been done by the original team that did 2. The remake of 2 did this, but another 3 teams have worked on this as well. And so that original team has been like a satellite over the top of it, just watching what the other 3 teams do. M2, I think, worked on it, and all sorts of teams worked on it. So it's kind of, it seems to have been a mishmash going in. The thing with the original was, the hook was not so much the environments in the game, it was the Nemesis.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. X from the last one, who kind of, in the original, in the new one, he was really dynamic.
Hmm.
or he seemed dynamic, and he would pace you down.
Yeah, it
But
was
in the
very very effective in that game.
yeah, in the original, he was very canned,
Okay.
and the hook to three which was also kind of made by outside sources and didn't quite work as well. But he was an evolution of that. He seemed more dynamic. He could do more things around him. So it's
Hmm.
strange when this comes out that kind of whereas Mr. X was such an evolution of what can happen. This seems to have been such a when you do Nemesis now, such a kind of a pullback from that,
Hmm.
and so canned and so kind of predictable in a way that it takes away the real hook.
Yeah.
Apart from saying, "Guys, here's Nemesis. Look, he's got his nice raincoat on." Um, it seems to be a real like the core of what it was, because the core of the original one wasn't very solid. Um,
Hmm.
as you can see by the way you work around the city now, um, which is very linear compared to uh,
Yeah, like the
um,
police station.
yeah, very linear.
Yeah.
There's no puzzles to get around. The whole thing about trying to unlock your way through this thing, like I say, like a Metroidvania but 3D,
Hmm.
locking your way through doors, looking at your map to kind of judge where you are, to backtrack and finding your routes and all this sort of thing that really hooks
Yeah.
you into that, has completely gone on this.
Well,
And
it's
there's
there a little bit, but it's like a couple of alleyways in like
yeah,
a, a restaurant you go into or something like that. I'm at least at
yeah,
in the beginning parts, but it's all connected via a like a very linear street connecting two locations.
and a ladder you kick for a shortcut or something, and that
Yeah.
is it.
Yeah.
So you lose that sort of thing, and it's there's several. All the problems, kind of, you could say throughout the game, stem from this start, and you can see all the issues.
Hmm.
The slight speeding up of the game, and the more action-fied elements to try and fit, even though he's canned, side of Nemesis in,
Yeah.
don't
So
quite work.
like I mean, just right off the bat, this game starts at like 10,
Yeah,
where Nemesis immediately just bursts through the wall of Jill's apartment, and you're getting chased down the hall and everything's going to hell, and Jill looks like she should probably have died 5 times in that first intro sequence. Um, so there's no like there's nowhere near as much tension as there is in other Resident Evil games, because it starts at 11,
yeah,
um, and then yeah, as you were saying with Mr. X, how he was dynamic, in Resident Evil 2, which the new one, Resident Evil 2 remake, which I also think was a bit of a surprise for people. I don't. Did they really talk about this him in the lead up to the release of the game at all?
no.
Like, yeah.
No, there
So
was just a couple of throws of him in the trailers, and it's like, oh, Mr. X is back. That would be cool.
yeah,
Nobody knew what it was going to be until we actually played it. It's like, oh yeah.
right,
Then he went viral.
right. He
Yeah.
he did. He was like, it was like an extremely like universally praised thing with that game. And when you're going into 3, Nemesis is there, because how could you have Resident Evil 3 without Nemesis? I mean, the original game, it had it as the subtitle. So, I think because of how positive, Mr. X was from the Resident Evil 2 remake, and then expecting that to be kind of applied to Nemesis in this new remake, kind of, doubled down on the, I guess, disappointment in what at least I was looking for, and I think other people were looking for as well. Where there is nothing really dynamic about Nemesis at all. He's literally like the Kool-Aid man breaking through a wall, and at very set locations, and being like, hey, here I am. Here's my flamethrower, suck it. And my tentacle. Yeah, and just those moments where he does that, I think like in another game where I wasn't supposed to be Resident Evil and I wasn't supposed to be scared.
Mm,
That would have worked out pretty well because the game still looks great. That engine they use looks fantastic,
mm,
and it would have been an intimidating boss to fight or something like that. But you're not really
mm.
fighting him. You're kind of, at least initially, running away from him as much as you can because he's, he's. I mean, at least it says it in the tutorial messages. You shouldn't shoot him because he's not gonna. He's basically bulletproof. Um, so it just led to a lot of frustration where I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing in these moments. Because I knew he was chasing me behind me, but I couldn't see him because it's a third person and my camera's facing forward. So then all of a sudden, like a tentacle would come flying out on the side of the screen and hit me. And they do have a dodge that they added to this game, but I never knew when to dodge because I couldn't see what he was doing. Like I didn't know if he was about to use his tentacle thing at me and I should duck or what. So it led to me just spamming that dodge button to hopefully not get hit and die. And then just moments where he just like jumps in front of you and intentionally blocks you. So it's not even like you have that one moment of him being a canned introduction. It's like
Mm.
there's several moments where there's scripting that he does a particular thing in these interactions. And it was just like it was very frustrating to me where, I'm coming in wanting to kind of, I guess to an extent, play a little bit more at my own pace than being, a almost like a glorified like a over the top glorified QuickTime sequence where I need to get these things down perfectly or I'm gonna die,
Mm.
kind of situation.
Yeah.
And then of course I was talking to you guys about, you duck inside one of those buildings and you can literally look at him staring at you through a window.
Mm.
He's just standing there and you're staring back at him and it's like, what's going on here?
You can play for the walls, yeah.
He literally just busted through this concrete wall and he's just gonna stand there on the other side of this pane glass window.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
It's just it was a little bit too, it added up to a little bit too much for me to, like, maybe I'll go back to it when I calm down about it, but
Yeah.
right now I'm still kind of not too keen on going back. I did like near the beginning, the like where it was actually doing the survival horror, going through that electric station, turning on the power with the bug things.
Yeah.
That was like, that's what I'm looking for in my Resident Evil, is like, I want to be scared. I want to be like worried I don't have enough ammo and keep looking behind me because I hear something that sounds like it's going to attack me, but then it ends up coming from the other direction or something like that. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
out of
Funnily
that.
enough, that's where Nemesis broke for me, where you go into that room. Because immediately before you go into it, because it's this thing where you see the locks that you can't ever unlock when you're in the beginning of the city.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I thought, right, I found the lock. Right there's the door I go through to do this thing. And it says after you've done this, you have to run back to the station to get away from the station.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll be shrewd. I know Resident Evil. I know how to kind of plan my attacks. It'll be easier for me to juke and dodge Nemesis if I go back and get the stuff now before I even go into this room with a lockpick.
Yeah.
And kind of go and pick up the stuff. It'd be much easier than trying to run and then pick all the stuff on the way. So I went back and he never turned up once. And once you know he's that canned,
Yeah.
it completely destroys that game. I spent about 40 minutes walking around there and never saw him once. He didn't turn up dynamically at all.
And
Yeah, that's
were the streets just empty because you had already cleared out all the zombies too?
No, because some of the zombies, you haven't cleared them. all out.
Oh, okay.
Kind of because he's already appeared once because he can revive them, can't he? Because he throws the thing out that goes on their heads that
Oh yeah,
revives
that's
Yeah,
dead
right. Yeah.
zombies. So
yeah.
they
Just
can be about occasionally. But yeah, I could just wander around and do whatever I want, and I spent a long time looking around. That's the sort of thing you discover after playing it through a few times and going through a few kind of reruns. And you
Yeah.
go,
Well,
oh, if I
I
go and
thought
take that handy backtrack, but
I
to
thought
find it the
about
first
that.
time.
Yeah. I thought about that
Mm.
when I got it. I'm like, I should just go back and get, because you see that shotgun you can't get. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
should just go back and get that shotgun, and all the other open up all the other stuff that I couldn't get before. Now that I have this, but that's probably not what the game wants me to do. Probably wants me to keep moving forward, so that's what I ended up doing. And yeah, that is what the game wanted you to do, but it's such an easy thing to subvert. So obvious. It's like, well, why don't I just turn around and go use this lockpick on all the stuff that I needed.
yeah.
It's
I ended up
sort of
restarting because of that. Like,
Yeah.
I grabbed it, I went right in there right away. Had a bit of a tough time in there because I didn't really have a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah.
those little spider guys kind of, if you don't have much, can eat up your stuff real quick.
Yeah,
And then so
the
then I came out of there, and then it was like, boom, there he is, and now he's gonna follow you, so you can't even grab all this extra stuff now.
yeah, that spider guy sequence was great because it
Oh, yeah, I
did
love
it
that
did
whole
exactly what, it's like a mini version of like what Resident Evil or survival horror does, is like, make you, it even kind of at the beginning kind of gives you a false sense of, oh, I can handle these guys only take a couple of shots, but then by the end of it you're down to like, oh my god, I only got one bullet left, what the hell.
Yep.
So that's what I really enjoyed. It was disgusting and it sucked because it was horrifying and anxiety inducing and terrifying and everything like that. But that's what I wanted. That's what you want. You don't want to just be like, the the end of Terminator 2 for the entire game.
It's the only scene like that that sort of a set piece like that in the entire game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that kind of that hard kind of I'm in trouble here sort of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. So, but that's just like I say. That's emblematic of kind of where I don't think they understand the core of how these sort of games work. That you can have exploits out there,
Yeah.
or just by having Nemesis there, you ramp up the speed and you have your dodge. So zombies should technically become less of an issue in this because you could just juke them, you just zip round them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the first one, this happened as well. To make it more dynamic and make it more scary when kind of the zombies latch onto you, they kind of zap into that glom, if you know what I mean. They zap onto you, so they lock a little bit sooner than they touch you. This seems to be much exaggerated in this to account for the speed, which makes it twice as frustrating. So it seems like they kind of glom onto you from a much further away distance to account for the fact that you can get away from them.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating. Doubly frustrating is the fact that they got rid of the that
You
get
can't
out.
you can't like shove them off you. Like, no matter how hard or how fast you're hitting that button, you're still getting bit at the end of it.
Well, if you remember rightly, in the last one you had the knife, or you had a grenade you could push into their mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you lose that get out. So that makes it doubly frustrating for the fact that they've tried to kind of amp things up, even though they've made it difficult. It's just a little bit. It's also messy.
Yeah.
It's also frustratingly messy. It looks better. It does. Even a vast improvement from last year. The character models look much better than they did before, and the pacing is off as well. I don't know if you've been keeping up on this, but kind of a lot of people have split the people that like the original because they've removed a lot of iconic areas from the original.
Oh, really?
They're completely. So we're calling it a remake, but people have now started to call it a reimagining because apart from that first city section, very little is the same.
Really?
I'm
Yeah.
going to say it's a spoiler, but it's not a spoiler because I've given you footage from the scene, so you see it. You go back to the RPD with Carlos.
Oh, okay.
Um, um, a small slice of it as well, so you don't even get to do the exploration you did with that. It's just literally one walk round, so you don't even get to have the Metroidvania thing back. It's just like a retour of, remember this, guys? We liked it from the remake.
Yeah. Remember,
But
remember this good game?
yeah,
Yeah.
so I say so there's kind of, apart from the fact they did that because it was there, they've taken really kind of, there's a scene in the originals in a graveyard people really liked. There's
They took out a graveyard scene? What the fuck?
technically it makes sense because they come out of the graves in the original, but they don't reanimate dead people. It's a virus that turns people into zombies, so it didn't make sense, but it still would have been cool. There's a whole puzzle sequence in a clock tower that's really elaborate and one of the best scenes in there. Go on. You'll see a clock tower, but you won't go to it. So it's made people angry.
Oh,
And
that
it's
makes me sad.
Yeah. And I can see your point. So as a fan, I could look at that and say you shouldn't have taken that out. As some looking at it objectively, because we have to here, kind of just you have to put that to one side. It still feels truncated at the game. It feels like it pushes you from environment to environment.
Yeah.
With very little segue. You've met the guys, obviously, kind of on the tube and stuff like that. They
Carlos
talk to you like you,
and
Carlos and Nikolai and
yeah.
the other guy. I can't remember what his name is now. But it feels like you've already met them.
Yeah, well, yeah, either that or it feels like there's some bit of like, oh, Jill is somehow famous now.
Yeah.
And and that didn't make sense when, especially Nikolai was like, she's gonna, you know her, she's gonna get you killed and stuff like that, and I'm like, how, like where is this? How is this reputation preceding her? Seems like there's something missing there.
But yeah, it shunts you from place to place. It's kind of right. You're done with that, and now Carlos go and deal with the RPD. Then they'll put you, and it doesn't have that kind of thing where you felt the progress of going from the RPD to the basement to the sewers. It felt like you was progressing between areas, if that makes sense. It feels like you're actually making that thing, but it just feels like here you jump from spot to spot to spot to spot to spot, and it doesn't flow terribly well at all. The spooky set pieces aren't very good. There's a good section near the end where you end up somewhere. I can't tell you, spoilers. But it's a very, very strange. I can't work out what's gone wrong with it, apart from kind of they needed to get it out. It hurts that it was so soon from the last one. It was so fresh in their memories.
Yeah.
That kind of you really see the seams in this. You really do see the seams.
Yeah.
And despite the fact it's frustrating in points, it's incredibly easy even on the hard level. I finished it in one sitting. And that's not a strong look, really. I shouldn't have finished it in like 5 hours or so.
It seems like it's a pretty short single-player experience.
They're all short, but this one feels it because it's so choppy in its progression of the ramping up of the areas. It doesn't make you feel like you earn the areas like you do in the old ones.
That first run through for me on Resident Evil 2 Remake was probably a good 9 hours. And I'm hearing people getting, like you said, one sitting. Like I'm hearing people finishing this up in like 5 hours, 6 hours, and stuff like that. And that's but I probably took longer than normal on that because it had that Metroidvania thing. So I wanted to make sure I went through and cleaned everything out. So I took a little bit more time with it than I would with this because it's this one's pushes you down the linear path so much more.
It doesn't serve you right either. It kind of there's a problem when you got, because I would think of the progression with the pouches and stuff. So you feel your progress. You feel like you've earned your pouch. This gives you the first 3 in about 2 hours.
Yeah. And
it hangs out the 4th one, and it's like, well, this feels like they don't know how to balance this game. It don't feel like they know how to balance a lot. Here's a ton of your here's a ton of your upgrades for your weapons, and we'll
Yeah.
just throw it all into you in the first couple of, and it just feels really strange, very
Yeah.
strange,
I wonder if it was like a case of, they kind of they pushed it out too soon. Like it was going to it maybe the team thought they had a little bit longer to work on it than they did, and they were like, "Oh, hurry up, get this out this year so we can do whatever next year or whatever." Because it kind
Well,
of feels like they obviously put the work in to recreate at least a good chunk of the game,
mm,
and like I wonder if it was just like, well, we were going to put the graveyard scene back in and do the clock tower puzzle, but we didn't have enough time for it or something like that.
well, it's got a lot to do with the fact that he took the puzzles out as well. There's two puzzles in the entire game.
Yeah, was one
And
of them that
then,
train thing?
yes, and that's
Yeah.
not really a puzzle.
No, it's not, but
Um,
was still it was a pain in the ass for me because I had the wrong one in that I thought was right. Like I was
yeah.
like, no, this is right. I know this is right,
Mm,
and I just was not looking at it. I was not looking at
yeah.
it at all because I thought it was right, and then I was like, oh my god, I just needed to flip this over to the other one.
Mm. They
Oh,
even kind of cheated me out of the hard experience, the traditional experience, because on the last one, hardcore mode gives you the ink ribbon mechanic back, where it's
oh,
limited typewriter saves. That's also one of too many save. I think that's because they put too many save points in to stop it getting frustrated with Nemesis coming in, chipping you every 5 seconds. So there's like about 30 bloody typewriters in the whole bloody. They're everywhere typewriters.
yeah,
So to make it not too easy, so you just store up that they took away the ink ribbon system from the hard mode, so you can't even do that for a traditional kind of run
huh,
in this. So, but I understand why they did it, because you just save up the amount of ink ribbons you need to use all of those things.
yeah,
So I get that, but it's kind of this where they haven't understood how it works.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
fun.
overall, it feels like this wouldn't be as big of an issue if this was like maybe like a big DLC chunk for two,
Yeah.
or it wasn't so obvious that they wanted to put this out along with the Resident Evil Resistance mode as kind of like a, hey, now this is worth the $60, right? Because you got two things here going on, huh?
Mm. Mm.
Um, which I
I
know,
mean, oh, sorry.
Derrick has been playing.
Mm.
The Resistance mode. Uh, how does that hold up? Uh, is it decent? What have you been? What has your experiences with it been?
Um, for me right now, I'd say it's at like that decent stage. Like it's got a pretty good foundation
Mm-hmm.
for what could be built on, at least from what I've played, because you have this 4 versus 1 game model, um, and one person plays as the mastermind, and then you play as four of these captive kids or teens, and the mastermind is setting up traps, setting out zombies, setting out enemies, taking control, attacking, trying to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
While you're playing as the kids, you're going through trying to do these like pretty fairly simple puzzles. It's kind of like go here, find this, go here, find this, unlock these couple doors to escape, but everything's on a time limit as well. So, like I said, it's pretty decent for what it is, and it's been fun for like maybe like 5 to 10 hours that we've put in playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm.
so like for me, I think it's definitely like a good building block for something that could be a lot better. You know, if they put like a bigger map or different maps, or start including more of the different masterminds, because there's, I think you have like six different survivors you can choose from, and then there was like 5 or 6 masterminds as well, and each one could bring out like a different variant. Like you had like this vine monster that could be summoned in, or you could summon in like a nemesis type thing or a Mr. X type guy.
Okay.
As like because you'd get I forget what exactly they called it because it's been a little bit since I played, but you have like so much resources to spend and it replenishes over time, but it
Hmm.
allows you to kind of stop and put up these obstacles against everybody else when you're the mastermind.
So,
So,
what are you doing as the mastermind if you're not putting up obstacles? Can you take control
you
of an
can
enemy or something?
yeah, you can get like I think that one actually costs like 1 or 0 of the resource, and you can like certain enemies you can take over and then you can start actually attacking them and going after them. But you have like there's cameras everywhere that you can be going across, shutting, locking doors,
Okay.
kind of planning out what you're going to do. You can bring up the map and see where they're at to try to stop them, depending what they're doing.
Okay.
So it's got a bunch of little things that work together pretty well, which like I said, it gives it's got a decent building ground of something that could actually potentially be like a pretty fun thing. Um,
So how is it? Is it balanced well? Does it feel like if you're the mastermind, that you can do a good job of going against the
yeah.
solid squad of players, or if you're,
Um,
or is it
like
unfair for like players that aren't really doing all that well? Like, what's
I would
the?
I would say it's pretty balanced, but then it also depends on skill and kind of knowing like what to put where and what your resources have and kind of how to plan out.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends. Like if you just jumped into it for your first time as the mastermind, I was completely confused because they have like little tutorials, but it's just like real basic stuff, and you don't really get the gist until you're in there seeing what human players are doing or how they're reacting to the things you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So after you get a couple matches under your belt, it's real easy and quick to pick up. Like, okay, this is what you can do, and it just depends. How good are the people you're going against? How well do you know that character that you're playing? How well do they know their characters they're playing? Because they can interrupt you, they can make things take longer for you.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of depends what their makeup is. So I think it gives it like a pretty fair mix depending like who's playing what.
Okay.
Yeah. They have said, I think, that they do have a roadmap for it going forward, so are going to be adding more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have a long-term plan for it, I think. So
Okay. Cool. So, looks like there's something there in the resistance mode, but the single player Resident Evil 3 campaign leaves a little bit to be desired.
it's still fun. It is still
Yeah.
fun. I as a big hard fan, I'd give it a light 7. Unfortunately, the last one was a strong 9, and that was literally 12 months ago. So it's in the shadow of the last one,
Yeah.
very much so. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
still fun. to some extent.
that's where I'm coming at it. I mean that I probably wouldn't have if Resident Evil 2 remake last year wasn't great and I didn't like it, I probably wouldn't have even given this one a second thought. Like I probably,
No.
that was the main reason why I was going into this. So, yeah, to have it be kind of disappointing is not great.
On
But yeah,
to 8, I guess.
what's that?
On to 8, I guess.
Yeah, I
Let's
guess
move on from the remakes.
the word is Resident Evil 8 next year, and then Resident Evil 4 remake
Don't
in
touch it. You don't need to touch it.
2022.
I heard about that.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, Resident Evil 2 versus 3 this year is like Resident Evil 4 to Resident Evil 5, huh?
Uh,
A team and B team. All right, well that was Resident Evil 3 remake. Now we're gonna move on to. Thank you for joining us in this very special episode of Voxel Viewpoint. If you'd like to hear or see more, please consider subscribing to us on your favorite podcast app, subscribing to us on YouTube, or visiting voxelvoice.com, where all of our great content comes together in one place. Also check out the Voxel Voice Facebook group, where you can join in on the discussion with a great, like-minded community.